Mike Damergis here in Studio City, California, and my distinct pleasure to my right is Mr. Lance Easley, former NFL referee and author of Making the Call, Living with Your Decisions. And September 14th, 2012, certainly a day that will live in infamy for you, as the Green Bay Packers were in Seattle for Monday Night Football. The action was the Packers led it 12-7, 8 seconds left of the game. Seattle had the ball at the 24-yard line. Russell Wilson goes back to pass, scrambles, kind of like Fran Tarkington. Heaves up the ball at the left side of the end zone because the Seattle was going left to right. 6 players jump up for the ball. 4 of them are Packers, and 2 of them are, one of them is wide receiver Golden Tate, and the other is M.D. Jennings. Take us from there as the 2 of them fight for the ball.
Actually, there were 7, 5 Packers and 2 Seahawks. When the ball goes up in the air like that, and I see all the hands come on it, the criteria for the beginning of control takes place. So I had to make sure that Tate or the offense or defense, who touched it first. Mm-hmm. And in my opinion, from my angle, I saw all the hands go on at one time. My first expectation was the defense is going to bat it down or they're going to scoop it and throw it away. That didn't happen. And then they started to come down to possess it, and I said, oh no. This is not going to look good for me. I'm hoping now that when they get to the ground, one man takes it away from the other man. So when I get over there, clearly one man has possession. And that didn't work out. They were intertwined like it was a meatball and spaghetti wrapped all around it, both their arms, and they're rolling back and forth. So that's what happened. And then I looked down. I looked at my partner, who was looking in my eyes. He had looked down at the same thing. Mm-hmm. And I thought to myself, I said, okay, if we sit here and talk about it, the Jeopardy music's coming on. John Gruden is going to tear us up. I know it's simultaneous possession. It goes to offense. It goes to A. So I'm going to rule it a touchdown. It'll sort it out in replay. I go up, signal touchdown. My partner does stop clock, and to talk about, which is the normal procedure that we would have done. And that's something I talk about in my book, that that's something that I wish I would have done in that instant, instead of allowing what John Gruden was going to say or, anything else that was going to take place influence me to sell it. I still had that call. I still was going to make that call. It just would have been delayed.
And talk about the noise level going on. It's over 68,000 fans. 16 million people are watching this. Certainly, when you're trying to concentrate on something, the noise level affects your decisions as well, and you're trying to get all this going on. And this was a long play by NFL standards, 8 seconds.
For me, the noise really, I think, more affected the offense, the Packers. On that play, it was quiet during the play. It was erupted when I went up with it. So the home team always has the advantage in the NFL because they have, the crowd's going to make noise and try to disrupt the quarterback and the signals. And that's what was extremely loud. Seattle, and I worked dome stadiums, and I was amazed at how loud it was. And I went for the world record when they did it with New Orleans, and I was right there where Guinness Book was, and it was not as loud as it was where I was on the field. So they would have had a bigger record. They may have been at 190 decibels or 200. I don't know. It was deafening.
So euphoria breaks out. Seattle wins it 14-12. What are your thoughts as you're going through the tunnel there? Did you think, okay, this is the end of the game? No big deal. Next week we'll be back for week 4.
Well, before that, we had the instant they had to verify the call on instant replay, and
which you were justified that they said
exactly.
It was a touchdown.
So
it shouldn't have been a big deal, right?
Yeah, the place went absolutely nuts. And then we had to go get the Packers to bring him back on the field for the extra point. They went in the locker room, which was my locker room, which I was not going in. We switched around, which is probably a wise decision. My wife was probably happy about that one. Anyway, we went in the tunnel. Yeah, and I think all of us in our gut knew it was such a huge event because even though we didn't know, we hadn't seen that play before, it was such a bizarre ending to a game and so kind of controversial. We didn't want controversy. We wanted the game to end nice and smooth.
Right?
Yeah, somebody
Nobody
wins,
knows
somebody
who Lance
lose.
Easley is.
Nobody knows who we are. We just walk away, and we go to next week. We walk in that locker room, and yeah, we were, we could all feel it. Then we got on the bus, took showers, and we got on the bus. I think the pool reporters pulled out our referee to ask a question, but I don't know if it was about the call. It was, I think, the delay getting the Packers back out. That was kind of a problem. Anyway,
so you get to your hotel back in Seattle, right?
We took the bus, and not one word was spoken. It was like a funeral. And the bus driver said, "I have never been on a bus this quiet." So we get back, and then we have to go in, and we have our conference with our supervisor, and we sit down and we go through. We have to fill out all of our calls and all of our forms, and we have a post-game meeting, which opened with prayer because it was like so intense. The whole thing was really, really intense.
Talk about that. Once players talk about it, they need a cooling off period after games. Certainly, as referees, you're very emotional. The adrenaline's going. You kind of feel that lull after a game, the emotions and the mental anguish that you go through during the course of the game. You need a little time to kind of decompress a little bit.
Well, as a referee, you can't take a break out there. You're always on, and I talk about in my book in the chapter before, during, and after, is that when the ball's dead, you're working. When the ball's alive, you're working. Before it's snapped, you're working. You're constantly on. You can't take a break, and we talk about that in training. You can't take a mental break. So you're on this really focused high, and then you take us, who were replacement officials with the NFL rules, and we're having to sort through that. So we're considering that, and we're watching different types of enforcing rules. Like, for example, the 5-yard, I handled the deep officials. So you have that 5-yard zone where they call it illegal contact, and you can't touch the receivers after that 5 yards. So you have to watch this unless the quarterback rolls out of the pocket. Now you can touch it as long as the ball's not in the air. So you have all this mental concentration on these situations that you're not used to, you're not doing every week because you're in a new thing, plus all the rules. So yeah, you talk about a wind down. Yeah, after every game, it's like, you come down. It's a rush because you're on. We're on. The whole game, especially on a close one. Now the blowouts are a lot easier, except then you have to manage fights and irritated players. You have to deal with that stuff.
And we're talking with author Lance Easley. Lance, and did you think maybe if there were some ramifications from the call, you'd be taking it as a whole unit, that you wouldn't be the one that was kind of selected out on this? Did you have any idea of the storm coming?
No, I didn't. However, I was the one who made the call. There's been millions and millions of calls made. They're being made right now in the World Cup. The next day comes and another game comes. And so, I never imagined what was coming.
So let's take us. You have your meeting. Go back to your hotel. Have you watched the news yet about the game at all yet?
Our phones are blowing up. That's the other thing, because we live in the cell phone age. So, of course, everybody's phone is blowing up. And my referee was getting death threats immediately because they knew his name, Wayne Elliott, and it was published in Austin, Texas. He's a realtor down there. Mm-hmm. So he's getting death threats from, like, right off the get-go. People have his phone number. I didn't have fans that had my phone number.
And we should point out the Packers were 3.5 point favorites in the game. So
yeah, I don't know. I don't follow that. And that's the other thing. There's gambling. And that didn't even cross my mind. I'm not a gambler. I don't even think in those terms about point spreads and odds, and neither do the rest. We don't talk about that. Maybe some of the other guys consider it or look it up, but it's not even on our minds. We're there to work and let the game go quietly and let the players win it, and we go home. Nobody knows who we are. We had a good workout. We got to see a good game, just like the fans. I mean, we're like right there we have the best seat in the house.
So the phones are blowing up, and you guys, obviously, you mentioned in your book that you're not allowed to speak until the NFL really gives you to speak, so people are calling up for interviews as well?
Well, initially for me, it was mostly friends and family, and people saying, hey, wow, oh my goodness, they couldn't believe what just happened, and because it was all over television. And even though they weren't using my name as much at that point, that's what initially came at me, and I was trying to deal and just keep up with that. The TV and the media people had called before, like throughout the season, and I just always referred them over to the league office. We didn't have to talk to him, so I say, yeah, call, the VP of PR. We'd give him his name, and they'd call in and say, whatever. We don't have to talk to you.